Watching this sport for about the last 10 or 11 years, it always seems like there's nothing new that can be done, and yet it almost seems as though every year, or at least every quadrennium, somebody's coming up with something new.
Not only new elements, but also new combinations. But look at what happens here. There's the Ginger. You can see he's way in close. Does an amazing job at keeping that on the bar and continuing the routine. It's a good-looking, clean, laid-out double back. Tough finish for Tom Schlesinger.
Take you back a moment ago to the parallel bars of Patrick Kirksey. 9.1 is as good as he could do. He did have some troubles, as you saw a moment ago. Floor exercise now, and David St. Pierre.
David, of course, out of UCLA. His second tumbling run is a high, clean layout backflip with a double twist.
Los Angeles, one of your many homes. Of course, you could say just about everybody in this competition is a homeboy for you. Lives in Oklahoma, lives in Las Vegas, lives in Los Angeles.
I'm a nomad.
I'm telling you.
Boy, I love that move right there. His third tumbling run was a 1.5 twisting back dive roll. Really good looking, high and clean. And he rolls out. This is the flares, of course, and he spindles. The spindle means that he does, as his legs move in the clockwise fashion, he twists his upper body counterclockwise.
David St. Pierre in 5th place after 4 rotations, but there have been some good numbers put up in this 5th rotation.
Here's David's last run. Tuck double back. Nicely done.
David St. Pierre. And he should score reasonably well.
You know, I saw David a few years ago, and I really thought that this young man was going to just knock him dead on the U.S. national team. Well, this is the meet, I think, where it's starting to all come together for David. He's currently 5th in the all-around, and you can see as he works through his flares here in the spindle, does a good job at keeping elevation above the floor. He cranks it up to a handstand and lowers down to a straddle split. Here's the tuck double back. It's a round-off back handspring. Notice the high reach, good position in the air, and nice landing.
He is 22 years old, but as the man on my right will attest, that is not by any means too old in men's gymnastics.
Well, certainly it's getting younger and younger, but I was an old man at 26, so I guess it's possible to maintain a few more years.
Tim Ryan, a living definition, to coin a phrase from another sport, of playing hurt. 9.65 the score for David St. Pierre a moment ago on floor X.
Boy, that was a terrific angle to see the opening sequence that Tim used on his pommel horse routine. He does an excellent exercise. He works down towards the end here. This is a Bailey to a handstand. Lowers down into single leg work. The judges need to see a scissor in at least 2 scissors in the exercise. He continues through, hop to a handstand. Good exercise. That will score well.
Got to be tough on him. He has had trouble with his wrists in recent days, but it didn't seem to affect him there at all.
The last part of his exercise, he catches a leg, which will be a deduction on that scissor. There's a reverse scissor. Now, this is a tough move. From the circles, he's going to hop to the end and crank that thing up to a handstand. That's really hard to do.
So they tabulate his score right now, and we will have that for you just as soon as we come back. Tim Ryan tied for 8th after 4 rotations. We'll be back to let you know how he did right after this commercial word. Gymnastics, the all-around and team finals. I'm Barry Tompkins with Bart Connor, Kathy Johnson alongside as well. And we are in the midst of an outstanding competition. You saw Tim Ryan a moment ago on the pommel horse. 9.35 was his score. We're coming down near the end of the 5th rotation. Remember, there are 6 rotations, and you have an idea at the end of round number 5, things are going to be very, very close indeed as we look at Mike Racanelli now. First in floor exercise, as you see, in the United States Championships just a couple of weeks ago.
Mike is currently 11th in the all-around in this competition here, but he has a terrific floor routine. Watch this mount. Layout double back, flip-flop, straddle jump, punch front 1 1/4. What a mount. Mike, of course, is coached by Peter Corman, who won a bronze medal on floor exercise at the 76 Olympic Games in Montreal, the first medal won by a U.S. male gymnast in 44 years. Michael's second tumbling run was a full twisting double. He does the flares up to a handstand. Most of the gymnasts are using that flare sequence. I like the originality here on this move. Notice the wide press position in the handstand, the straddle through the splits, Judges are looking for original elements, and certainly that fulfills that requirement. This exercise is really hot so far. He is right on. Handspring front full, straddle jump, punch front. That's called a Y scale. Judges need to see a balance on either one foot or one arm. Here's his last run. A tuck double back. Great routine for Michael Racanelli.
Just terrific. 20-year-old Mike Racanelli. He attends Oklahoma State, as you mentioned, coached by Peter Corman. Let's take another look at his mount.
Racanelli opens with a laid-out double back. Notice the terrific position in the air. Good stretch body line. He pulls it around through to the back handspring, straddle jump, front 1 1/4. Great combination tumbling of double back flips through to front flips.
So he has to be very pleased, and he looks very happy with that. And we will have his score in just a moment as you look at Kevin Davis. Davis preparing for the pommel horse. He was the national champion in this event. And he right now sits in 3rd place, having a very good competition.
He is doing an excellent job, and of course this is one of his best events. And watch this mount sequence. He opens here, the back more up, travels to the end, a little trouble as he clipped the horse, travels back across the horse. Now this is an amazing sequence. Notice he's going to do flares in a spindle and travel across the horse at the same time. Oh, he caught his foot there. That will be a deduction. He picks up after the scissors, travels down. He'll loop around handstand and a pirouette dismount.
So Kevin Davis with a couple of little bobbles there, and the battle lines have been clearly drawn now as Mike Racanelli, you saw a moment ago on floor X, he was in 11th place after 4 rotations. Look at this score, Bart.
9.9. Nice job for Racanelli.
Conrad!
Can hardly do it any better than that, and that certainly is going to move him way up.
There's no question that's a world-class floor routine. As we mentioned at the top of the show, he's one of the 3 locks on the U.S. team going to the World Championships. If he could make it to the finals there, he might medal. Conrad
Wursanger now, he is in 12th place, but he has to be looking at what Mike Racanelli did as he moves to the parallel bars.
This is a terrific event for Conrad. He does a lot of difficulty, a very fast-paced routine, very precise. Oh, little trouble. That was a Diamondov with an extra 1/4 pirouette as a slide glide. Minor form break there. Reverse stutz to a straddle cut. Conrad has really good technique, good form, good position. Nice clean landing on that tuck double back.
But one little bit of problem. Couldn't quite pull his Diamondov off.
He got into a little trouble early on, but as you can see here, he cleaned up his exercise with a good clean stutz. He had to rush a little bit as he swung down for this tuck double back. Normally he dismounts with a pike double back. He changed mid-skill and handled it beautifully.
Now, will the judges know that, and will they deduct for that?
No, although you get more points back for doing a pike double back, there certainly are no deductions for doing a tuck double back.
Let's take you back a moment ago to Kevin Davis, who you saw on the pommel horse. 9-2 was his score. Lance Ringnahl now, he is the leader. And really hasn't had to look back over his shoulder too much, although Cheney Humphrey had a very good floor exercise in this rotation. He scored 9-8. You didn't get a chance to see that, but that should move him up. So it does mean that Lance Ringnahl cannot back off on the high bar here.
Lance was second in the U.S. Nationals, as we mentioned earlier. Lance is such a terrific gymnast. He has good style. He has all the difficulty. He was a surprise second place. He was very heavily favored going into the U.S. Nationals, where Tim Ryan won. So the fact that Lance is doing so well here certainly has to make him pleased. This exercise is really strong. He has everything in there. Here's his dismount, a laid out double full out. Great landing.
Did it very well. Now he will need to score at least 9.35, and even to my amateur eye, I would have to think he did that.
Boy, that's a world-class routine. He has great difficulty. And watch this dismount. This is a laid out double full out. We saw him have some trouble with this at the Nationals. He over-rotated, but he is strong here. Look at that face.
He is a happy man, and why not? He will remain in first place, barring the unforeseen. And the unforeseen is that he would score less than 9.35. We will hold it until we get his score for you. It appears, though, that Lance Ringnahl has done enough to keep himself in the lead over Cheney Humphrey. And then the battle will be for third, fourth, and fifth. Certainly, Mike Racanelli has moved up in fine fashion. So we will keep you updated on Lance Ringnault's score. In the meantime, let's take you way up to the rafters and Jim Kelly.
Live gymnastics action here. The men's rotation. Bart Connor and Barry Tompkins down watching, along with Kathy Johnson. And Bart, as we join you now, I guess I'd like to ask you a quick question. How difficult is it for men gymnasts to stay at the very top of their sport for a 3-year period, given the grueling demands of all the training that they have to go through and the risk of injury? I mean, are these people that we'll be looking for Barcelona, and how long can they stay at the top of their game?
You're looking at Cheney Humphrey. We apologize for a little bit of a communication problem that we're having between our anchor position and Jim Kelly and Bart Connor and myself down here. Cheney Humphrey has just performed on the pommel horse, and he did have a couple of bobbles, and you have to think that he just is not going to be able to pass Lance Ringnault, regardless of what Ringnault does in his final rotation.
No, in fact, Cheney had a major error and will drop down significantly. Lance is certainly a lock, I think, for the all-around title here.
He is leading the competition after 5 rotations. Cheney Humphrey second, and David St. Pierre, who you are looking at, is sitting in third place. So St. Pierre, as a result of Cheney Humphrey's bobble on the pommel horse, should he be able to put a sensational, and it would have to be sensational, performance. Cheney Humphrey, incidentally, 8.9 on pommel horse, so it does open the door ever so slightly for David St. Pierre on the same apparatus. Here he is.
David is currently trailing Cheney by about 7/10 of a point, but he could do it here, and boy, he has a good combination there. 3 backmores in a row on 1 pommel, a little form break, but that's a D move, one of the most difficult elements being done on the pommel horse. He has good toe point. This is impressive. His legs are nice and straight and locked out. There's the flare, more. Right to a handstand on the end. That's going to score well for David.
Did very well.
Terrific meet for this young man.
Crowd likes it. We'll see if it's enough. So he could move into second place, allowing for the fact that Lance Ringnault has done everything but win.
You can see here he does the flares. There's a more. Continues in the flares. Hops down to the end and finishes in a very clean handstand.
We will watch for his score. He needs a score of 9.65 to move ahead of Cheney Humphrey into second place behind Lance Ringnault. Meanwhile, Tim Ryan prepares to perform on the rings. And as we mentioned, here's a guy who, by his own admission, is a little bit worn out right now.
He was even quoted in the paper today as saying, "Don't expect a lot of great performances out of me." He's been nursing some injuries. He's been having a rough time here at the training camp. But once again, they're training through this event, looking forward, hopefully, to big successes in the World Championships late October in Stuttgart.
David St. Pierre, not enough. 9.45. He needed 9.65 to move into second place. So Cheney Humphrey will finish in second place. Tim Ryan now.
It's a real treat to see Tim perform on the rings. He's very strong, has all the strength elements. He opens here with a kip, press to a handstand. That's called an inverted iron cross position. He powers down to a move there. That's called a Maltese cross. And lowers to a skin the cat position and then continues. Watch this combination. Here's a whip it right to an L cross. 3 incredible strength moves right in a row. Called a front uprise. That's an L position, of course, and that's what they call a hollow back press to a handstand. The judges need to see a press to a handstand as well as a swings to a handstand as he's doing there.
Upper body strength has to be, I imagine, just phenomenal.
Oh, and what a dismount. Laid out double back, and he totally rocks the landing.
So Tim Ryan, who was 9th after 5 rounds, really sticks it. And here's another look at the dismount.
From the handstand, he's going to bail and do 2 flips in the laid out position. Good stretch body. And that's how you do that landing.
So Tim Ryan almost certainly will move up. Again, we mentioned that many of these competitors looking not by the Olympic Festival by any stretch of the imagination, but really toward the World Championships in Stuttgart, as you mentioned, in October. Here's Lance Ringnauld, and basically what he has to do here in floor exercise is show up.